Should have done better.
Okay. He should be putting that in.
First off, Wii release. Yay.
Yay! Yay! Although I have my comments on that, but yay!
Yeah, the rotate thing was a bit of a cock-up, but there we go.
Yeah.
Never mind. Don't know how we managed to miss that one.
It's not Gary Neville again, is it? I mean, it's not Neville again.
No.
If you have comments, go for it.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, the rotate thing really pisses me off, for lack of a better term. And obviously, I am not without fault there. I never did actually check out that PR. So, you know, it got merged because it had to get merged, or it got the approvals and everything. I mean, it followed our normal procedure, right? So, the fact that I didn't check it against the stuff is partially my fault for sure. But we have to make sure that we have. This is a problem. We broke existing functionality. Functionality that only existed for a week, I grant, but it was still working functionality that we broke, and that points toward we need to be more careful about testing. And the problem with the rotate is it's a little hard to write good unit tests for that, and so it's easy to miss this kind of stuff. But that means that we have to be, we're certainly aware of that. We knew rotate was broken, we knew how it was broken, we knew it was fixed, and then it got rebroken. So we have to be more careful about catching those cases. And so when someone suggests a change to rotate, it would have been nice if one of us, including me, had suggested, hey, how about we check it against the earlier PR, those test cases that already lined out and demonstrated to how it worked. It's good to go back and just to make sure everything still works. I don't know whether there's some way, like I said, it's hard to do a good unit test on this because it's hard to compare what you mean when you do a rotate. But certainly, if we had some kind of gallery, I guess, like the kind of gallery you're talking about, maybe like just some, like a human could just look like, oh, okay, so all our examples, whoop, that example is no longer appearing the way it should, or something like that, something that we could see a problem. And part of my concern about that, or I think part of the issue I had with the release, and Stuart, I know I certainly I'm fully behind releasing frequently and everything like that, but the gap between when the PR was merged into the master branch and then the release, I don't remember how long the gap was, but I imagine it was not very long.
Imagine it in hours.
Yeah, so it didn't have the chance for things to kind of settle, or check whether another PR conflicted with it even. I had PRs in there for draw grid and draw limb that were merged into the branch, and there's no reason that should have broken, but there was no opportunity to really test everything en masse.
It didn't break. Your draw grid and draw limb PRs.
If you're editing Portugal, you should
didn't break the but I knew they were going to do it, and I fixed them. So.
Well, okay, I didn't mean break like that. That's a merging is of course an issue, but I just mean non-subtle interactions between code after it's been put all together in the branch to be released. It would have been nice if there had been a couple of days for people, major developers, to go in and say, okay, this is the branch that's going to be released. No more features are going to go into it. We'll do any fixes that need to be necessary, but you have to look for anything outstanding. Now, even that may not have caught this kind of problem, because if I wasn't paying attention and if other people didn't think of it either, then we might not have run by these test cases. But the fact that these test cases were out there, we were aware that rotate could break. And none of us, all of us, kind of failed to just check those test cases and identify this problem. It's something we really need to avoid happening in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Albert. I think for pushing for releases, I think we're being a little bit too aggressive, and maybe the key is to, the PR being accepted, the time between a new feature being accepted as a PR and when we release should be like a minimum amount of time, like a month or something, just so that everyone, it's in master, everyone's used it for a little while, and so that we don't impede progress, we could create a new branch called 0.6, for example, where if you wanted to start putting in new features, people are continuing to develop, you start PRing to 0.6, and then you release 0.5, and then 0.6 becomes master, right? Because
Other way around. It should work the other way around. Me especially, very much did push this one out probably a little too fast, and I am aware of that. In theory, we should feature freeze, branch, and then have a 0.5 branch for a while and then release. But we didn't because I wanted to get it out the door.
I mean, I agree with the doing the branch 0.5. The problem is that people will not stay on it, right? People stay on master.
No, the point is that when you hit feature freeze, you go to 0.5.
Yeah,
Like 2 days back.
I agree with that. I mean, that was the whole scheme of how we do our branches, and so that's what we should have done. Master should have been put to 0.5. 0.5 would be relatively locked, and then all the developers would go deliberately pull that branch, try out the 0.5 branch, and then people can still continue to work on the main master, do new features, do what the hell they want, but 0.5 is locked at that point. And then once we're comfortable with 0.5 looks stable, I don't think it needs to be necessarily be a month, of course. I'm a little more, I want to push for releases. I don't want us to get too conservative on that, but at least a week maybe or something like that where 0.5, everyone's had an opportunity, we've had a dev meeting in between to say, okay, guys, we really got to check this out, and then we release it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I probably should have been slightly more patient, but there we are. It's not one of my qualities.
Well, I mean, in this case, like I said, the fault can be spread around on this one, and the fact was that it would have been far worse if there was a known problem and you pushed out a release. There wasn't a known problem. There was a failure for us to test out that PR.
Yeah, we failed to put in a submap test when we were testing it, experimenting and playing with it.
Yeah, I presume Drew was always working with
slipped my mind.
full sun AI images, so it's never,
Yeah. But, why don't we should just implement a feature freeze, right? Like, at some time, we should just say, that's it, no more features. Like, the PRs that are not in this, that have not been accepted, they're just not going to go in.
Well, functionally, doing the 0.5 branch approach would work that way.
That is what it is supposed to do.
PRs are supposed to go to master, and stop.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing is, we need to be more. I agree. That's the way it should work. That's the way it should have worked. But I think we need to be more. I don't know. Maybe I need to stay into the office till 8:30 just to get the feature freeze done. I don't know. Yes, we seem to be. Things don't seem to move like that. Things sit there for weeks and nothing happens, and the release slowly gets pushed back. And I really wanted to get Dan's PR and Drew's PR into 0.5 because on the big feature front, 0.5 was relatively light.
Yeah. Though 0.5 was always meant to be kind of light.
Yeah, but I mean, without those two, it would have been very light. The only other thing would have been the image alignment.
The original point of 0.5 was just more increased test coverage. It was not really like a user-facing release. It was more of a stability. Just like 0.4, really, originally it was a documentation push, though it ended up being a lot more other stuff.
It ended up. I think that's the way that this is going. Our sort of biannual release cycle is going to end up working. We're going to have one massive Google Summer of Code release and one smaller release every year. Especially this year, 0.6 is going to be phenomenal.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. Yeah. I think next time I will be more strict on the feature freeze, and I'll give it a week from a 0.5 branch to a release.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we're still pre 1.0, so I still see us as working through these issues, both on the kind of management side of things and on the process side. So.
Well, yeah, but it's about establishing good procedures.
Yeah, and you can. It's much better. It's better to learn from the mistakes now than botch it up later. So
Yeah, right.
we've learned. Let's use this as a learning opportunity.
Is Stuart, is Drew going to fix this soon? Do you know? I know he said he was going to look at it, but I don't know if you talked to him
Yes,
separately.
we will have it patched. Well, I'm going to be in the same place as Drew on Wednesday for a week and a half, so at that point it will get fixed. If it's not done by Thursday morning UK time, I'll be stunned. So
Okay.
we need to add submap tests because to rotate, because it would have, even a very basic test would have picked this up because the whole box goes black. So that it definitely can and should be tested. So we will add that in. And
Well, I wouldn't say the entire map goes black. It really depends on where you crop and where you rotate and.
well, no, I mean if you take a submap and rotate it, the output image, the output submap, the test that I ran to discover this bug, the output submap is entirely blank.
Okay, well,
It knows all the data.
The test that I run using the test on using one of the examples from the 1009 PR, you still got data. It just was in the wrong place. And
I think the reason what was special about my test data, which I think may be broken on your old one, I'll check out 0.4 and try it out, was the reference pixel is actually outside the box.
0.4 should be able to handle that fine. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you do that, yeah, of course, then it's even worse. The submap that I took still included the origin, I believe, so that would help.
I think the issue is just the definition of image center, but also, I don't know, it shouldn't be that hard to fix, and we'll put it in, and I'll push out a bug fix release as soon as it goes in.
Sure. And I'll be sure to check it out.
Yes. I'll wait until you approve the PR before we merge it.
Yeah, I would also suggest that I think we've all been fairly bad at looking at the PRs that Stuart flags as for review. I would encourage everyone to, every once in a while, actually go and look at the code and give your thumbs up, because it seems like very few people are doing that. Which means fewer eyes on the code, which means this is more likely to happen, right? Things get accepted and things get reverted or whatever. Like small, silly mistakes are more likely to happen that way.
This is, well, it's in a related vein, sort of, but I wonder the people who approved the AIA prep rotate re-implementation, did you actually pull the branch and try it out?
No.
Yeah, so we have to be a little careful. Sometimes it's easy to appraise whether a code change, you don't actually need to pull the branch and you can approve it. But something as extensive as the AIA prep one. And that was the reason why I kept putting off actually giving my approval, because I was like, I have to test the branch, but I don't have time. And right, I mean, it's great if people approve stuff, but sometimes you really need to test it out too, and that can be a pain in the ass, of course.
Yeah, agreed. I should have pulled it and actually tried it.
It's not the end of the world. It's okay. It's annoying.
Let's try to minimize making these kind of mistakes in the future.
Yes, we must learn from this. We should. Yes. Well, basically all of these issues, all of the ones that I've encountered in the last month with Daniel and his Resi things and everything else that's been happening, is just we need more tests. And not just percentage line coverage tests either, actual tests to test actual things. Like, most of our map code, although it's better now that British has done his pull request with the map sources, most of our map code isn't tested on JPEG 2000 data. Yeah. All the lines that are tested are all tested with fits, and that is something that really needs rectifying. And we have, I'm not convinced, I don't think we have an example of a map being created from an ANA file either. So there are lots of things that even outside of line coverage, we really need to be more stringent on like feature coverage, test coverage when we're merging PRs and writing code. And
Well,
if anyone's ever bored, writing more tests.
The gallery could be used in that way, in that, going back to what Albert was saying, that really you need to like look at it and see what it's doing, and people could write galleries which, if things break, it would be clear in the gallery, right? Like that rotate function. If it becomes all black and you're looking through the gallery, it's a black map, then something's not right.
The problem is that the gallery example for AI prep didn't have a submap example in it when it really should have done. Because if it did, we would have noticed. But there we go.
That's if we have. Speaking of galleries, since we have docs for different versions, can we have a gallery for different branches as well? Or do you think that would be too hard? We could do the same thing where gallery has different branches. Like there could be a 0.4 gallery and 0.5 branch for the gallery.
If you want to code that up, then...
Oh my god! What the hell was that?
Crikey, Jack. What the hell just happened?
He's gone to green.
I don't think Jack liked that idea, Steve. I think we deeply offended him. Yeah, I mean, I see your point, but actually I think we could. I don't necessarily think that's worth the effort. There's more rewarding gallery dev time to be put in on other things than that, especially at the moment.
Well, so that means that you're expecting that the gallery would need to be maintained, like all of the examples in the gallery need to be maintained every time we go to a new release, because things are going to break, right?
Yes, I'll add it to my release checklist.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was asking you about the metadata, adding a SunPy version number in there.
So when the gallery runs, it adds a metadata. It adds a version number to the whole gallery metadata. So there's a deploy script in the gallery repo. So when you run the deploy, someone who has push rights to the upstream branch runs the deploy script. And the deploy script deletes the GitHub Pages branch, creates a new orphan GitHub Pages branch, builds the IPython notebooks to HTML, adds all the HTML files and all the built notebooks to the orphan GitHub Pages branch, and then pushes that branch to the GitHub Pages branch remote. So there's no history on the GitHub Pages branch of the gallery.
Right.
So otherwise the size would be too large.
Yeah.
All the history is in the code that's in the main master branch. So all someone needs to do before we do a release is run the gallery and verify that the output is correct.
Right.
I think the problem, I would say we could use the gallery as a fancy form of continuous integration testing, but there's no way to expect errors. So the AI prep gallery deliberately raises an exception, and there'd be no way to test. We have no framework for expecting an error.
Yeah, you just have to. A human would have to go and look at it, right?
Yeah, but that's fine at the moment when we've got 3 things. But when we've got 50, 100, that becomes rapidly impractical. So maybe we have to think about that as well.
Mm. Well, I mean, the other thing, I asked you about this, and you pointed to an issue, which is that the gallery code the code in the notebooks should be run and part of the tests. And so you could at least see that there was an error there, right?
Well, that's my point, is that we could run the notebooks as part of our continuous integration, but we have no mechanism for expecting error. So we can't do like we do with PyTest, where we do with PyTest raises an exception. We don't have that framework in the notebooks. If we want to raise an error, we want to show the user that it raises an error. So we don't want to catch it, we don't want to process it, we just want it to raise the error. So we can't use the notebooks as continuous integration because they will always fail.
Sure. So this is something that somebody would do locally, right? You have the notebooks, and then you somehow run a script, and it tries to run everything. And
yeah, well, that's what the notebook does at the moment. But again, the build script doesn't crash if there's an error because that can be expected behavior. So the only way to see that there's an error is check the output.
You can. I know the Python notebook will let you output the actual just Python code. Is there a way to just grab the Python code and then just run it, right? Like just a Python space?
We can do that to the gallery. That's the way it works. It runs the code. But
it runs it inside the notebook, right? Here it would just run it as a Python script, and so if there was an error, it should just give it to you in your command prompt or whatever, right?
Yeah, I suppose we could. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. It would still require human intervention, but yes.
Yeah. But at least it would be clear. At least you wouldn't have to go and open the notebook and then look at it. You would actually just see like pretty much it shouldn't give you much of an output at all. Maybe a few plots and stuff, but you would see, oh, there's a big red thing that says, oh, and something failed. And it stops at that point, right? Yeah, I mean, the gallery is great, and I think it's very powerful, and I think we can use it for a number of things. But you're right that it deserves some thought on how we use it and how we what standards we want to use.
Yeah, we need to. So first off, has everybody seen the gallery prototype?
If you just go, so Stuart, I don't know if you noticed, but I unilaterally accepted your pull request and merged it.
It's fine. It was 3 lines of HTML code. I think it was okay.
So if you go to sunpy.org, there's a new gallery link. This is all thanks to Stuart with maybe a little bit of help from Keith. Is that right?
Yes, I borrowed lots of Keith's code. And lots of AstroPy tutorials. It's made most of it by tutorials. Like, I took the AstroPy tutorials repo and made it work, and then took lots of Keith's code and smashed it together in a really ugly way. It needs sorting out, but I was like, this is going to work, and it's going to work before I go to sleep.
So is my PR okay?
I put a few comments on it.
Okay, I'll go back. Uh-oh.
So I need to doc gallery and like contributing to it and such.
Yeah, I think there should be a standard kind of header to the top of each gallery that says like who wrote it. Maybe do like run a SunPy with a system info so that you see what it's been run on and some like standard things at the top.
I don't think we want to keep the gallery examples clean. If you have a look at the footer of the gallery page, there's a version stamp. So the
well, you want at least the author, right, at the top.
Yeah, the author thing is interesting. I don't know how to because it's in the metadata, but it's not visible anyway.
Yeah, maybe you could rip it out of the metadata and add it, put it into the actual, in the build process, build essentially a header So it
I was
shows up
thinking
nicely at the
you
top.
could maybe put a footer on it with the author and the build date and the SunPy version or something.
Oh yeah, that might be good.
Think about that. I'll add it. Issues, write issues.
Yeah, so I PR'd the SunPy overview that to this gallery that I gave at the Reci workshop. So it should come up once I deal with the issues. Yeah, aren't they? They're awesome. Yeah. Are you using notebooks?
Yeah, I've been using them a little bit. I can do a bigger version of the light curve gallery. That could be pretty easy.
We'll just edit the one that's there.
Yeah.
So the way this works is that there is a. Hang on. I think Steve. I think you've got an echo. I think it's you because everybody else is muted.
Yeah, Andy's in the room with me, so whenever he speaks, you'll probably hear him through my mic.
I think I can hear yourself off Andy's computer. Okay.
He muted me, or muted himself. I'll mute myself as well when I'm not speaking.
So the way this works is that there's a Git repository that contains each example has its own folder inside the gallery directory. So you add a directory and you add your notebook into that directory. You have to add JSON metadata to your notebook when you PR it, which gives your author name, the date you wrote it, a title for it, which is used in generating links, and a category. And then there's a prepare deploy. There's a prepare_deploy Python script in the base directory of the repo. You can run that by doing Python prepare deploy space run space convert, which will execute all the notebooks and convert them all to HTML and build the HTML site in a directory called HTML. You can then open up the index page in Firefox or whatever browser you use from that HTML site and preview the site. Oh, there's also a published Boolean. There's a published equals true metadata flag as well, which you can set published to false, which means it will build when you run it locally, but won't build if you run the main deploy script. And then if you run prepare deploy and you can see the site, then if one of the maintainers runs the bash script, which is called deploy, it will do what I was describing earlier, where it pushes the build result to GitHub pages. The way that's written is that you have to have the SunPy version of the repo marked and named as upstream.
One thing I noticed reading your contributing page, I would say a lot of that stuff you just talked about, which is fairly necessary for somebody to contribute, is very buried after a lot of description of how to use Git and things like that. I would.
Okay, so that contributing page is straight out of AstroPy tutorials. I haven't touched it yet.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I think it seems like there's a little bit too much about Git, because by the time they get to that point, well, they maybe know more about Git than we may realize. I don't know.
Yeah, I need to. Have I added it as an issue yet? I don't think I have, but the contributing documentation and stuff needs work. So yes, if anybody wishes to help with the gallery, by writing examples is a good first start, or by actually hacking some CSS, because the IPython notebook layout page is wrong. If you shrink your viewport, the link disappears off the thing. I probably won't have a lot more time to spend on it. I just wanted to get it working so that there was a repository where encourage people to write notebooks about it, for it, and I realised that there's more work needs to be done on tidying it up and making it work properly, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think it might be a good idea, Stuart, to start now that we have both the web page and galleries, which are kind of their own thing. I think it might be a good idea to put some people in charge of those two things, so that things don't get forgotten or lost. Because it's sort of a lot to do, both to handle the code and then the galleries as well, which you have to watch another repo, and the website. There's a lot to keep track of, so it might make sense to kind of have people whose responsibility is to essentially maintain that. The gallery person would be nice because it would be somebody that would go around and encourage people to actually make notebooks, even if they weren't super good at improving the gallery code itself and everything. Just a thought. I don't know that this, David, I don't know that this has to be somebody that has to be on the board. I would say this is more of a developer, a lead developer, assigning, responsibility to someone. It's more of an implementation issue.
If somebody wishes to volunteer for this.
Well, I've been handling the website for a little while now, so I'll volunteer for the website. As both Stuart and I have essentially been the ones sort of working on the website. But
So what would be involved in looking after the gallery? Just making sure that the stuff in it is up to date, bugging people to write more notebooks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and also there's some web design work that needs doing on it, but you don't, as a maintainer, don't necessarily have to take that on as well if you can bully someone else into doing it. I mean, for the moment, I'm happy to look after it unless anyone wants to take it on, in that it's not much work at the moment to maintain it and review PRs on it. But if someone wants to take it under their wing, write some CSS for it, and genuinely look after it, then it will grow faster than it will if someone doesn't. I mean, even if you don't want to volunteer to do it in an official capacity, or even this sort of semi-official capacity, just saying, yes, I'll write some code for it at some point would be good, but whatever.
Well, I can be persuaded to do something with the gallery.
I think the first thing you should do is convince Dan to write a notebook showing his goes.
Reviewing his goes and temperature and stuff.
Yes.
Andy, once I haven't used notebooks, but I should get into that, so I'll help you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Have you used notebooks, Andy, much?
Yeah, a reasonable amount.
Yeah, Jack, you're welcome to come up here, and I can show you how I've been using notebooks at any time.
Yeah. So I think, well, I submitted a poster for the SIPWork meeting, so I think some notebooks attached to that would be a great idea. But first, I'll have to teach myself how to use notebooks. But since there are local experts, one on this floor and one in the one above, then that'll be fine.
Yeah, remember that I put together 3 notebooks for the Resi workshop, so those are good resources. One's on NumPy, one's on SciPy. Did I do SciPy? No, Matplotlib, sorry. NumPy,
Okay.
another one's on Matplotlib and plotting, and another one's on SunPy. They're currently hosted on, well, if you go to the blog, you can get links to those notebooks.
All right.
And my plan is to put them into the gallery.
Okay, while we're here, so there's, in the metadata for the notebooks, you can add a category. I feel as though we should have a discussion about which categories we want. At the moment, I've gone for maps and light curves, but obviously this is somewhat limiting.
Yeah, the reason why this came up was my notebook is basically like an overview of all kinds of stuff. So I had just decided to add a category called Overview, which is, I don't know. I agree with Stuart. We want some more cohesive set of categories. You can see the categories in as they're displayed, right, in the gallery.
Yes.
There's light curves, and then there's those light curve maps. There's 2 notebooks in there.
So all of that page is actually dynamically generated using JavaScript. What exists is a JSON file which holds all of the information about the whole gallery. This is Keith's wizardry. He made me write JavaScript code. I'm no longer Keith's friend. I hate JavaScript. I'm burning fiery back.
Too bad the entire internet works on JavaScript.
Yep.
Would you rather it be Java?
No, even worse. Okay, so I can see sort of 2 options for categories. We could have like a difficulty category, like where we have like introductory notebooks, intermediate notebooks, advanced notebooks, maybe with some sort of more original naming. Or we could go like the way that I sort of started going, which was have a category for each section of SunPy, but have it maybe also have an introductory / overview kind of section, and then maybe we could have like an introductory overview section, map, light curve, spectra, net section. That probably covers most things, right? And then we could have a sort of I can't think of a name, but like a doing science with SunPy section, where we have examples of actually doing some kind of analysis, coherent analysis, workflow kind of stuff. And then maybe a section for crazy stuff, like I want to write a WCS Axes notebook.
I would suggest that we create an issue for this and just have the conversation there where people can post and say what they think. That way it's all maintained, the conversation is maintained, and we can bring it all together. I mean, one other possibility is that we have no categories as well at all, kind of like the matplotlib gallery, which is really, they just provide lots of keywords and things, and you just kind of browse and look around to see what you want.
We could probably relatively easily, if someone is up for this web dev task, we can implement some kind of keyword system as well as the overall categories. So we could have some kind of search by keyword functionality.
Yeah,
define the keywords in the notebook metadata, store them in the JSON file, and then deal with it afterwards. But again, this probably requires someone who understands how to code JavaScript, someone who is not me.
I'm going to have to go to another meeting in 12 minutes. If we are done with this conversation, I wanted to bring up the issue with the ephemeris that Jack has been posting.
Go on.
Did you see my my reply to you on that ephemeris?
Yeah.
Where?
So you've been using PyFM, is that right?
Yeah, that's.
It's 472, I think.
I posted a link to the issue on the right. Yeah, so basically I was able to redo what you did using PyFM, which is a Python version of ephemeris. PyFM is not super great. It's basically wrappers around C functionality that's written for XFM, but it's all open source and available. Somebody wrote a script around that. So the idea for this is that
by the old GPL.
Yes. The idea for this particular issue is that Jack has essentially written a fix for the solar position, which has a higher accuracy than what we've been using so far in sun.py. But it turns out that PyFM provides that similar functionality and lots of other stuff. So I wanted to just see what people thought about having an optional dependency, and this we don't have to figure this out now. But I think in the future it would be nice to have PyFM in there for lots of other reasons. But again, as an optional dependency.
PyFM is not just for right ascension and declination. So what I mean, it doesn't have any ephemeris on the heliospheric coordinates, which is probably the most that we are going to use in SunPy.
That's true, yes. But as we kind of get closer to AstroPy, it would be nice to, for example, like here's a use case if you're looking at LASCO C3 is a wide angle one, right?
Yeah.
And you would, for example, you would do a plot, and it would know what PyFM would automatically know what planets you have in the field of view and would label them automatically, for example. Or, for example, like the Crab Nebula is another nice
Yeah, but that will work just with LASCO. It wouldn't work with stereo, for example.
Yeah. The other.
because it uses right ascension and declination, and in stereo you have a different point of view.
So PyFM can't do arbitrary calculations from arbitrary points.
That's something I need to figure out.
You will
It
have to
does
change
seem
the
to be-
date to the time. Let's see.
So no, basically PyFM only works from Earth.
Well, it is very Earth-centric. I'm trying to figure out whether it works from somewhere else, or whether you can kind of trick it into working from somewhere else.
Also, notice that PyFM is GPL.
It's LGPL,
LGPL, okay.
so we can
Which
use
is-
it.
Okay.
Although it still makes me uncomfortable.
I mean, the other thing is also by depending on PyFM, we're essentially saying that we're allowing somebody else to maintain ephemeris for us, right? By taking in Jack's code, we're essentially agreeing that we have to maintain this ephemeris data, or maintain the code for that ephemeris data.
Jack's PR is for the location of the sun in RA depth, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
kind of incomplete. I didn't go around testing the other quantities from SunPy that GPL also provides. And in any case, there's been a couple of bug fixes since then, right? To the sun.py code, is that correct? Since last October, so I probably just need to rerun the whole thing again.
Yeah.
I would suggest that knowing where the sun is probably quite an important piece of functionality to have in our library. I know very little about ephemeris at all, but that seems like it might be kind of handy.
I agree, but it's also very hard. I mean, that's the issue.
I think it might be worth, for the larger scale discussions here, I think it would be a good idea if we started an email conversation with AstroPy Dev on this, because I'm sure it's something that they're going to run into at some point if they haven't already.
Yep, yeah, I agree. I mean, my thought simply was that we could consider having it as an optional dependency, in that it would check whether you have PyFM installed, and if you did, then it would use that. And if you didn't, then it would just fall back to our code. That's all I wanted to bring up.
I think at the moment I would be against that in general until we have a better idea of the whole picture and what AstroPy are doing and where we want to go with it, etc., etc.
Yep, that's fine with me. Basically, I just wanted to start this conversation.
I agree, and there is also to have in mind there is few different kind of ephemerids. One is like right ascension and declination and galactic coordinates that will be used by AstroPy. Then is the helium coordinates, which it will be different.
Yeah, but the idea is that the doubles are we will have the functionality to convert between the two at some point. So
yeah, I mean, as long as the ephemerids package can provide a coordinate that's not in a projective system, which obviously RA-det is, but like if you can provide a non-projective coordinate system of any sort, in theory it can be arranged so that AstroPy coordinates can convert that into something that we want to use.
Oh, and also Helio have a coordinates service. So with internet connection, we could just query, for example, Helio or the EPL directly.
David, that library you just posted looks awesome, but has no license.
And also doesn't seem
Yeah,
to be
we will
used
have
very
to ask
much.
them.
Oh, their PyPy page says MIT. They are now my friend. Let's use these people.
Well,
It's the same guy than PyFM.
that exists, which is only 2, which is even less, fewer than SunPy.
What was that?
It only has 2 forks, so not very many people are working on it, which makes me a little bit worried.
SunPy was the same when it started.
That's true. I wouldn't have recommended that anybody depend on SunPy at those early days either. No, but it does look like a good library that we should keep in mind.
But both are from the same guy. The PyFM and that one, the Python GPLFM, are from the same Brandon Rhodes guy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, but I have to go, guys. So I will talk to you later. Bye.
Steve, do you want to send out that email to AstroPyDev or Jack? One of you two seem to be the most qualified people to take that on.
Sure. Jack, do you want to email? Since you've been the most active on that side of things.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go too.
See you later. Okay, well, we didn't get on to doing roadmap stuff, so we might as well just wrap up at this point, I think, unless anyone has anything else they want to discuss quickly.
Nope.
All right then.
No.
All right.
Good job for the Open 5.
Thanks, people.
Thank you, yeah.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.